Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have another one of those examples of the SNP, and in particularly Shona Robison, but other people as well, not thinking things through, not seeing the consequences of their actions. And unfortunately, the consequences of this may impinge on the defence of the realm, may cause a fall in further military numbers already at the lowest level ever and with massive recruitment problems, and even more so recruitment problems to Scottish regiments. And it's all to do with the fact that military personnel are employed by the Ministry of Defence in London, but if they serve in Scotland, they're deemed to be employed in Scotland even though there is no Scottish employer involved. And so they will be paid from a payment office based solely at the Ministry of Defence in London, but have to pay Scottish tax. Now, two things. One, it means they're paying more tax. That is levelled up by the UK government paying Scottish serving soldiers, for example, serving military people, slightly more to obviate that tax so their take home is the same. But it also then means an invisible transfer of wealth from England to Scotland via that taxation. This is wrong. Why not just give all servicemen the same wage regardless of where they're based and tax them centrally from London? Surely that makes sense. Surely that's the simplest way. Alas not. Let's take a look. So, SNP government failed to disclose the full tax divide with England in its guidebook for military personnel. And remember, soldiers don't get a say as to where they go. They are at the whims of senior officers or generals or even, bureaucrats in London who say, oh, we need to move this regiment up here. We all need to do this. These people need to go there for a while. And you'll get your marching orders, quite literally. And away you go. And you may be someone serving south of the border who's ordered to go north of the border. And all of a sudden, you're earning less. Now, the MOD have said, oh, well, that's okay. Up to a certain point, we'll pay you more to obviate that tax. But as I say, firstly, two things. One, it means that the tax that's taken then goes to the Scottish government. So it's secret tax, money being transferred. So I hope that the money is coming off the Barnett Agreement, Barnett Formula monies. Number one. Number two, it's also rather iniquitous in terms of military wives. Now, military wives obviously follow their husbands. All military husbands follow the wives, depending which way round it goes. But the spouses. Now, that means a spouse who was working in England suddenly gets the marching orders, has to go to Scotland. And all of a sudden they have to pay even more tax because they're now working in Scotland through no fault of their own. Again, nobody thinking this through. There should be dispensation for military personnel. Now, if you are a country like Scotland who, say, would like to have the Scottish Regiment, and all of a sudden, the people in the Scottish Regiment say, well, this is not fair. I'm not employed by the Scottish Government. I'm employed by London. I'm employed by the MOD. How come I'm getting taxed at this rate? How come we are being forced to do this? I tell you what, I won't sign up. I'm going to sign up and get a transfer out of a Scottish Regiment down south into Royal Engineers, Royal Artillery, something like that, and go south of the border. Why not? It's within their right to request it, I suppose. Whether it happens or not is another matter. But when you get so few people willing to join the military because of it, at a time when the military are already suffering from its lowest numbers and terrible recruitment problems, why would you make things harder? Seems very weird. Anyway, the SNP executive published a guidebook for military personnel moving to Scotland from the rest of the UK, but it fails to explain the growing tax divide between the two countries. Of course it fails to explain it. If it started putting the truth out there, people would realise how bad it is. They need to cover up the truth, don't they? So the Scottish Government failed to disclose just how much of a tax gap there is between England and Scotland in its guidebook for military personnel heading north of the border. There is a growing disparity between both countries when it comes to income tax. Army, RAF or Navy officers who are placed up north are paid what they would get south of the border through Scottish income tax mitigation scheme, which sees the UK government step in to pay them extra cash to circumvent the extra tax burden, which means basically the Scots are, or the Scottish government is overtaxing the rest of the UK. But, and this is where it's causing a lot of annoyance as well, their spouses will need to pay more money on their earnings if they make more than £28,850. The amount of extra cash they give to the public purse will increase once they go up the tax brackets, hitting huge differentials from £43,663 onwards. Now, if you're a semi-senior, officer, you sort of, you can be, say, hitting major or something like that. Chances are your wife is a professional. She could be there. She goes up with you. You've had orders now. It's not your choice, but you've been ordered up there. She's been ordered up there. She's the sort of person that's earning that kind of money. All of a sudden, bang, thousands a year gone through no fault of her own because somebody in Whitehall has ordered her husband to move. How is that possibly fair? The important information is not included in the Scottish Government's official publication, Welcome to Scotland, a guide for service personnel and their families in Scotland. And as we say, it's not surprising it's in there. If it was, people would say, well, I'm not moving to Scotland. This was published yesterday, and it means that military families would have no idea about the tax differences unless they do the research before they move. It does mention the mitigation scheme, which applies only to personnel based north of the border, so therefore you're treating people differently. Again, not good for morale when it comes to military. Everyone's got to be the same. You progress by rank or qualification. Certainly when I was in, I did every course I could, and it would be something like 20p a day for that, 50p a day for something else, 30p a day for something else. Once I got sufficient, I got all my clerical courses done, I was earning a lot of money per day for the time. We're talking the mid-80s, late 80s. And it was all right. I was doing all right. Thank you very much. But I'd hate to think that someone else, same length of time, same rank, same qualifications, was earning more of me simply by being in Scotland. And you say, oh, but it isn't more. He's getting the same. He's getting the same take home. But don't forget, when you're looking if he's got a pension coefficient, private pension, that's based on the total of the income. He's getting more pension put in. Anyway, the guide also points out that it has its own rates and bands, which are different from the rest of the UK, which you will pay as a resident of Scotland. But it fails to go into detail on this, only adding that your tax code will begin with the letter S if you pay the Scottish rate. HMRC is responsible for the collection of income tax in Scotland and England, and it should all be singular. Military personnel hired by the Ministry of Defence should all be treated as resident of London. That's where the MOD is. It does bring up the long boasted about SNP promise of freebies for those living north of the border, which are funded by higher taxes to the rest of the UK. Although those higher taxes do not fund all the freebies, and they're cutting services to try and pretend that they're free. Nothing is free. No such thing as a free lunch. The publication adds, the revenue raised from taxation in Scotland supports the most comprehensive range of free access to public services available in the UK, including free prescriptions and tuition fees. Here's the great thing. If you're a military person, you get free prescription and assistance with tuition fees. You don't need to go to pay extra tax in Scotland for that shit. It happens. We previously told how the UK government forced to spend £7.21 million to mitigate the income tax differences. Now that's money going directly to the Scottish coffers. But is it being taken off the Barnett formula? I suspect not. This is expected to rise further when the new figures are published, and if they did not do this, military officers would be worse off and could even refuse to be based in Scotland, damaging talent at the likes of Lossiemouth and Fastlane. It's an issue being discussed by top paying sectors like hospitality, technology and NHS Scotland, and I covered that yesterday in a quick one, where they're looking for what's called a Scottish weighting to try and uplift the monies because of the excess in tax, because they're losing they're losing these people who just won't go because of the tax. The Scottish Government confirmed plans to create a further tax band in the budget, blah blah blah. We've covered that 1,000 times. Shona Robison is basically an idiot, as we know. But what happens? What happens when nobody wants to serve north of the border? What happens when everyone in the Scottish Regiment says, do you know what? Sod this. Sod you taxing me. Don't like it. Don't want it. My wife earns enough money. I'm losing thousands a year because of the excess tax. If I move down south, she can come with me. We'll save a ton of money. Bang. No military in Scotland at all. None. Why? Don't need one, do you? Nobody's going to attack Scotland, are they? Coming up. This, of course, is another example, not that many are needed, of why Shona Robison is an absolute moron. She probably didn't even realise the implications of this tax on military personnel. It's like a lot of things, though. She doesn't realise a lot of what's going on. But it is, as I say, also in the piece, not surprising they didn't sort of mention it in that brochure, because people seeing that and going, "What? More tax? Nah, ain't going," and they just refuse orders, resign their commission, end their tour, not sign up again. Why would you? Why would you sign up to be overtaxed like that? Why would you sign up so your wife was worse off? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. Speak to you later. Bye.